Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here. I want to thank Darren and your colleagues for your hospitality and for your service to the university and your for tuition dollars. That's also much appreciated. But it's nice to be here. So part of my role is really just to sort of set the stage and give a little bit of a overview of what's going on with the school. So many of my McCombs colleagues are here. Would you mind just sort of waving standing? So Carrie, I saw Robin, David. So we've got representatives here from various parts of the school, from alumni relations, from our communications department, from our corporate relations group, from Texas Enterprise. Those are the bandanas, I think, on the tables. So thank you all for coming, and if see any of us, if we can help you get connected to the university in various ways. Don't ask to get your kids in. That's a little bit harder, but we'll see what we can do. So, and it's a pleasure to be here also because last year I was up here and it was a great event, but I was called to do the economic forecast. And if you listen to that sort of probably overly generous introduction, you'll notice nowhere in there was macroeconomist. So I'm very happy that Anil's here today to do that role and not me. So let me give you some sense of what's going on at the school. We are a big school, as you'd imagine. To give you some statistics, we're about 4,400 undergraduates at the business school. And we're also a pretty large MBA program, about 265 in each MBA class. The other thing that many of you may not be aware is we now have MBA programs around the state and actually the world. We have a program here in Houston that runs on the weekends. We have a program in Dallas. We have a program in Mexico City. One of the interesting things in higher education and business schools has been, in general, some migration from the full-time programs around the country into these part-time outlets. So one of the things you're seeing is more and more students pursuing degrees on the weekends, on the evenings, and we're excited to participate in that. And Houston's a very important market for us in that setting. So we're fortunate to be ranked well. Ranking's one of those things that you talk about when they're good. And if they're not good, then you say that they're noisy and they're superfluous. So luckily for us, they're good and they've been going up, so we can talk about them. But we're happy to be in the set of the top business schools in the world when it comes to these sort of metrics. So teaching something that we take very seriously. And I started my career in another school, and it struck me when I came to UT as a faculty member after being a PhD student, just how much emphasis there was on the teaching side of our mission. So we've been blessed with some nice statistics there. One of the really fascinating things currently, to give you some sense of campus and higher education, has been trying to figure out technology and the way it's going to change what we do. You've probably followed a lot of the buzz or thought about it or brushed into it with your children or your employees, but things about online education, about how we learn differently, it's a really fascinating time in higher education. A little threatening, a little scary at times, but it's interesting. One of the most interesting things we've done in the school just this summer was open up 2 new innovative classrooms. And the way it works is it's a flat room with tables like this that are spread out. Each table has their own flat screen monitor on a wall, and then there are big projectors up top. And the professor then has a flat room where the professor can walk among the students. The students are working in groups at each table, and you can hit a button and ask for that group's flat screen to be shown to the big screens. So the idea is you're teaching a case, and you can say, can you all work on this case among your groups, and hit a button and show that group's work on the big screen, and then talk about that, and then go back to your group work. So it's a really interesting time. None of us really know how to use it yet. We're used to the tiered classrooms, and we're the talking head at the front. But it's pushing us to rethink how we do those classes. So it's a really interesting time. I think it's just going to be fascinating to see how it all develops. So we're also, of course, a research institution, one of the top research institutions in the world. And by various metrics, again, we're large and I think productive. So we have a large amount of faculty, about 250 faculty members, of which about 150 are on either tenure track or tenured. We also produce a lot of PhD students. I was fortunate enough to be one in a moment of weakness for the school, which was great. So that is also something to take very seriously as well. So to some sense of the job market, and I was talking to one of our real estate supporters, and they said something like, if you can't be happy in Texas in real estate right now, what do you want? And so it's much the same for our graduates and our students. Times, as you'd imagine, are good. We're very, very fortunate to be the flagship university and the flagship state in a wonderful city like Austin. Could be far worse. To give you some sense of the statistics, essentially all of our undergraduates are placed when they graduate. One of the struggles we have is companies will call in March and say, can we get in touch in front of your students? And it's almost too late. Many of those students have lined up things coming out of their summer internships, and they're already spoken for by the time the holidays arrive at the turn of the year. So there's some numbers in terms of the undergraduates, in terms of the MBAs. Things are going very, very well on those fronts, as you'd imagine, given our proximity to markets like Houston, as well as Dallas and Austin. So the alumni has been a big focus, and Carrie and her group have worked very hard to get more engaged, more alumni engaged. We're really excited now about the increase in everything from participation across the board, whether it's financial or in terms of our programs. We're a big school, so we have a lot of living alumni. We had a wonderful year fundraising, which many of you probably are aware. We passed the campaign for Texas goal of $3 billion at the university level. Our school contributed about $280 million toward that campaign as well. Executive education is another part that many of you may be unaware of, but we'd love to talk to you about if it's interesting. So this is a way for us to go back and provide some added value to people at various stages of their career, whether it's on our campus or at your company's offices. That has also been a growing focus of the school. So a couple of little small things to finish on in terms of the outlook for the school. We're very excited about the prospect of a new building. So those of you that have been back to see the building, those of you that may have had class in the Undergraduate Teaching Center, the UTC, we were an excellent school in spite of that facility, not because of it. We have this grand plan where the last stage is to hand the keys back over for that building back to the university. That's the moment we're all waiting for quite anxiously. So we're going to plan to break ground in November on our new MBA building called Rolling Hall. And you see some diagrams there. Again, it's going to be really neat to see how that goes. You're going to see a lot of shared workspace, a lot of open space, a lot of breakout rooms, new classrooms, and we really think it's going to poise us to compete better with our peers in that space. Then the next step will be the undergraduate facility. We've been blessed with a gift from the Mulva family for $40 million to name that facility. So we'll be the McCombs School of Business with the Mulva Hall for the undergraduates and the faculty, and Rolling Hall for the MBA side. And if everything goes well, you'd imagine both, the MBA building should be online by 2017, and then the undergraduate facility we would hope be online as early as 2020, but we'll have to see how it goes through that process. But that's part of the outlook, which is great. I'm going to read all these numbers to you next. Just kidding, Pat. So these are on your table. This is a handout, sort of a takeaway to give some sense of the school and various statistics and metrics we look at to give you some better perception of where we are. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake.